everybody. Good morning. It's Dr. Cindy Stark here, coming in live for my Tuesdays at 10 talk. Somebody let me know that you are here by typing in hashtag live if you're catching me live, or hashtag replay. Also, put that in if you're watching after the fact, because I love to know who all comes in here and listens in on Tuesday mornings. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day. I have had the most exciting week of my life since I last came in here and talked to you guys. Sorry, I missed last Tuesday. I was up moonlighting in the mountains, and I have, um, it's really been about 2 or 3 decades since I've worked 12-hour shifts, and so I can't pull away from the hospital and come in like I usually do. But my name's Dr. Cindy Stark. I practice medicine up here in the North Georgia mountains at a couple places, and I have an online group coaching program called the Soul Circle Academy. And it's my mission in life to kind of teach people how to harness this amazing power that's in their subconscious mind so that you can really live your preferred life. And that's what I want to come in and talk to you guys about today. Hey, Pat, you're here. I'm so glad to see you here live, live and healthy. It's so good to see you. But there is so much of our life, and hey, Jenny, so much of our lives that are run by 96% of this beautiful, wonderful, magical creation that God gave us with, hey, Lynn, called the subconscious mind. And the goal and the role of our subconscious mind is to keep us alive. So, way back when how I see it, God was deciding how to create our minds. He knew that a lot of the way that we were gonna have to survive is to be able to listen out for saber-toothed tigers and rustling in the leaves, and so a huge portion of our brains are meant to listen in to any kind of signs of danger and rustling that can cause us to not survive. And so I've really been doing a lot of thinking about this, especially over this past week, because I was alone for a majority of the time when I was up there moonlighting in the mountains. And um, there are so many ways that each one of us humans have gotten exposed to all sorts of patterns that um, really were able to keep us alive and help us survive through certain parts of our lives when we were younger, but they no longer serve us. Okay, so if you're like most of my audience and my clients, we're in the second halves of our lives and we are trying to go places and do things and have this preferred vision of our future, whether it's where we want to live beachside, or we want to make a big impact in the world, or we want to be really healthy and in our physical bodies, and um, or we want to just have this spiritual and soul kind of almost like this ascension where we emanate love. And that's what we want in our lives, but what we end up having is these repeated patterns of um, fear and helplessness and gosh, this always happens to me. And we keep replaying these memorized patterns that were there. It's in our subconscious mind because at one point in our life, those patterns really helped us survive through something traumatic that happened to us in childhood, or let's just say we were exposed to bullies in high school or in elementary school, and it helped us kind of get away from those people. But now that we're not in high school anymore, and there's no danger, our bodies and are run 96% of the time by goings on in the subconscious mind that are keeping us kind of in these holding patterns of just living small and thinking that there's fear around every corner. And there's no power that lives right there. If you really want to kind of change your life, you have to change your brain. And that's what I created the Soul Circle Academy for. It's how to literally rewire the DNA in your brain so that decades can turn into days. Sometimes decades of growth can turn into minutes and seconds even, and kind of reveal and uncover this coding that will help us live these amazing preferred futures that we want for ourselves. And so, with that, I just kind of want to tell you a story of this last week of my life. So, I back as soon as I retired from full time medicine back in, I declared that I was going to retire in January, and then my last day was April 1st. I went ahead and started the credentialing process, which takes 90 days to do some part time work, and this particular position is 12-hour shifts, and I said I want to kind of knock about 5 or 6 of those 12-hour shifts out once a month. And I said to myself, I have not worked a 12-hour shift since I was in training, and I don't know at 52, I was telling myself, I'm gonna get exhausted. I'm gonna get sick. It's gonna be learning a brand new commute up to work, learning a brand new building, learning a brand new computer system, and it was so funny because everything that I had learned to kind of survive in my life, I was replaying, okay, and it ended up being completely different because I chose for it to be different. I said I want this to be fun, and I want this to be exciting, and I want to learn so much about medicine and about all these people up here in this community, and so there was one time a couple of funny things happened. I kept trying to find the cafeteria because you're there from 7 a to 7 p, so you have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, or excuse me, breakfast, dinner, and supper, I think is what they call it. But I kept trying to find my way over to the cafeteria, and it's a tiny hospital, but it's all these little concentric circles, and just kept getting lost over and over and over again. And I kept my walk path kept ending me up into this loading dock where all the supplies come into the hospital, and everybody started laughing at me. But I ended up finding my way around, and and it's and it was just really interesting because every day I would get to know. I just kind of like pick names out of a bucket, patients that I would end up seeing, and a couple unfortunately a couple of really unfortunate things happened. A lot of people were at the end stages of their lives, and I just happened to pick their names out of the bucket, and I had 3 patients pass away on me, and it was so. I always think that death is a sacred moment in a patient's life. It's just like birth is just as sacred as death. Death is just as sacred as birth. But to be in that acute phase of grief, seeing these wives, all the patients that passed away last week were men, and so I was there holding space for these wives, praying over their husbands while during their last breaths, and hugging them, and helping them wipe away their tears, and some people were saying, how can you do that, see death 3 times in a couple of days? But the way I just turned it around, and I'm able to really live my life from this preferred state, this preferred memorized state. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about today. But instead of thinking that is so sad, and how can you sit there and listen to and watch all that grief, I just turned it around and said, I'm the one chosen to be in this sacred space with these women, and they're teaching me how to be a good partner and a good wife. And anyway, it was just this wonderful, beautiful thing. And I learned that I can do hard things, and I saw that all the other people there can also do hard things. And so it was just this amazing opportunity. And I do also learned my boundaries, that I don't think I should do 6 out of 7 days 12 hours. So that is working 72 hours in one work week, and that was a lot for my physical body. But what I was able to tap into in that moment was this wisdom from these inner children of mine, and it's part of what we teach in my program. And if you ever want any more information about this program, about this method that I'm going to kind of give you a high level overview of, just contact me. Either send me a direct message on Facebook or send me an email. It's all on my website. I've linked it already in the show description up above. But when I was younger, when I was 21, I wanted to cure cancer. I was getting my bachelor's degree in genetics, and I wanted to go get my PhD in genetics because I could tell, even at that early of an age, just how much power and wisdom was held in our DNA, and there were certain codes and secrets. That's kind of like how I'm going to describe them to you, but you know, genetically speaking, it's this transcription factor and this DNA replication cascade. And I was learning all about the secrets of how to unlock those codes. And I'm like, I want to get a PhD in this because I want to cure cancer. That's what I thought of. But then something happened to me at 21, and unfortunately, my sister's second born child, he was 8 weeks old, and he passed away of sudden infant death syndrome. And in that moment, like literally in the snap of a finger, in the blink of an eye, there was this pediatrician that came into, I do believe, as I recall, into our home and helped us learn infant CPR for her other surviving child and for the any other children that she would have. And it made me realize I don't want to go in to get a PhD in genetics. I want to be a medical doctor and help touch people's lives the way that this doctor just touched our lives. And so I started this journey into going into medical school. Okay, and mind you, I come from a family of hairdressers and electricians, and this was not in our path to go into graduate school, and especially not medical school. And what I discovered, I had no idea how it was going to unfold to me, but what I discovered was this amazing program called the Medical Scientist Training Program, and I said, well, that's what I want to do because it came with the full ride scholarship, and I would get an MD and a PhD at the same time, so I could do both things at the same time. Well, so I thought I had it all planned out, and I go and apply to medical school and graduate school and this training program, and I got rejected. And so here I was, really straight A student in medical school. Excuse me, in high school, and did really well in undergrad, and then I just got rejected. And back then, I see it now as God was lining out my path for me, and angels were put into my path to really facilitate this transition so that I could do what I was going to do. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to. Just listen to my story today, and hear anything that I say that you can see yourself in it, because what was available for me is available for all. But so I got rejected, and because my dream was still alive in me, burning really, really brightly, I was listening to all the people around me at the Centers for Disease Control where I was working, and they said, you don't have to accept that rejection. Let me let you go present this research that you're doing for us anyway, and reapply. And I'd gotten a hold of this fascinating opportunity at age 21. So I had this little gap year of age 21 to 22 because I had changed courses, and in my life, and I was at the Centers for Disease Control, and then HIV was just coming out. It was back in the late 80s, and I had gotten a hold of this opportunity to take hundreds of samples of breast milk from prostitutes all over the world. So I had my Brazilian, my African, all these things. Seriously, it was the most fascinating research I did, and I was able to discover not HIV, but a relative of that virus, a different virus, and discover how that virus was transmitted from mother to baby through the breast milk, whether it was or whether it wasn't. And then that related to HIV. And so it was just like really fascinating research. And sure enough, I had written 2 or 3 papers. I presented my papers to this one conference, asked Emory to reopen my application, send the right people to my presentation, and see that they wanted me in their program. And sure enough, they did. And I got in, and the rest is history. I have graduated from medical school with $0 in debt, and in fact, I got paid to go into that whole program. And so, my parents, I didn't cost them a dime. And so, anyway, and it was just a great experience. 7 years long. I couldn't have spent my 20s doing anything better, in my opinion. And And it made me realize when I was up there in the hospital this week, up there working these 6 12-hour shifts up there in the mountains with all these patients dying on me, if I could just tap into that wisdom of that little 21-year-old that said she knows what she wants to do, she wants to do something that no one else has ever done in her family or in her own life, and just become that bold, fearless version of myself. Well, how do you do that? How do you do that at 52? And you're tired and you're in this new place and you're getting lost every other second. You don't even know where the cafeteria is. Well, what I do is I'm able to pull up, and I teach this in my program, but I'm able to pull up versions of me from a long, long, long time ago. I call them silenced inner children. So they're versions of yourself. And, God always, he gives us his divine, infinite wisdom, and it's in our youngest versions of ourselves. When we were first born, the first 7 years of our lives, especially, we're in a certain state of brain waves where we're just sponges and everything, like we have infinite possibilities of whatever we want to do in our lives. And then our dream dies little by little by little as we get older, because all this parental programming and societal programming and educational programming, and goodness, if I would have thought that I wasn't worthy of being an MD and a PhD, and that one admissions committee rejected me, and I believed that about myself, that I wasn't worthy of admission into their program, then my path would have been completely different and my story would have been different. But back then at 21, I knew that wasn't the truth for me. And I had surrounded myself around people that were doing the thing, I mean, everybody around me were MDs and PhDs, and I was at this amazing, government institution where we were doing this incredibly pioneering research. And so I remembered that trailblazer. Thank you, Kathy. I remember that trailblazer part of me. I remembered that I was rejected and I didn't care, and that I can figure out the thing. And so I just went up there and I made the best of that whole entire week up there. And I've never gone on a solo vacation. I call it a solocation now. I don't really think I've ever been on one. There was maybe one time in my life I'd gone somewhere alone, but it was just a car ride, and then I ended up staying with my aunt in Florida for a week. But I was scared of all this stuff, but I did it anyway. And the way that I was able to just like in a moment's notice tap into that wisdom of my 21-year-old self, even at age 52, up there in the mountains, was I just kept remembering every night as I would go to sleep and every morning when I would wake up. That's when our brain is most susceptible to and most impressionable to alternative states of reality. Okay. So I teach this method where we speak to our inner children. We resource them with what they need at that time, and then they resource us, our current day Cindy, or current day self, with all of these gifts that they had back then that helped them survive. And so they made it through these really tough times of our lives. And instead of memorizing that state of rejection and being alone and being scared and feeling like a failure, you just turn it around and remember what they taught you and keep that in your forefront of your mind. If you have to write it down, if you have to record your voice, I do a number of things. I write it down with pen and paper because that gets it into a different part of your brain. I also type it in so that I can look at it on my phone at any time. And then I also speak it, because there's something very powerful about hearing your own spoken voice. There's so much power in your voice. And when you speak your truth to yourself, that gets it really ingrained deep into your subconscious mind too. And I'll listen to these recordings sometimes like on repeat all night. And then you wake up and you are actually, your subconscious mind is scanning all kinds of data all around you to see the bits of data that match up with your preferred memorized state, instead of the unintentional memorized state of that hopelessness and, oh, I'm 52 and my ship has sailed, and I can't just work 5 days in a month and that be enough. I'm gonna have to do something that doesn't align with my soul, and I'm never going to be able to see my friends and family and loved ones because that's what I've always done. and I can't speak my truth, and like all these things that you kind of end up being by the time you get to this phase of your life. And instead of like going in that rut, and you just turn it around 180 degrees and go towards your preferred future. Lynn is saying you have to do the work to pull those children forth and resource them in the program. And then they amazingly will help and appear just when you need them. It's beautiful and powerful. Yeah, and you're right. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly the whole entire program. And rejection is redirection and protection. I couldn't have said it more perfectly. And without these tools that we teach, you don't even know how to do it. You're just kind of stuck in this rut of where you don't want to be, and you have no idea how to get out of it. And so I was up there again, like I said, I was on this solo vacation. And there was this one time when I was like driving up this mountain, to get to my Airbnb, and it was so steep. I was telling my kids last night, it was like gravel part of the road, and then the really steep parts would be paved, and then gravel, 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 and then paved. And I was like feeling like I was losing my footing, with my tires. I have an FJ Cruiser. I mean, she's a badass. I mean, she's able to get up mountains, but old Cindy, the one that was stuck in a rut, I said, something's not feeling right in my car. And so, like, I pulled my car off to the side, put it in park. I said, I must have a flat tire. And I looked around, all my tires are fine. I said, just keep going, Cindy, just keep going, just keep going. And then when I got to the Airbnb, I mean, that driveway was straight up. And I said, again, I thought I couldn't do it, but I did. And it's just like the more you do stuff scared, and the more that you remember that preferred memorized state, that your 21-year-old, and for you it's going to be somebody else, but my 21-year-old shows up for me all the time because she absolutely did not. She refused to let failure define her. And I went through something really similar again when I was in my 40s, but that was a completely different story. But you just have to know how to get those tools and those gifts that they have to give you, and then use them in your current day, and apply those little tiny baby neural pathways that you wouldn't have remembered, but they're there for the take, and you just got to be able to grasp onto them. And then you apply those baby neural pathways to all these other situations in your life. And you know you were it was interesting because I learned so much about myself being up there, because I learned I could stay in different places. I had to like get two different Airbnbs for that whole 7 day stay. And the next one was kind of scary because there was like a washer and a dryer out in the yard, and a baby stroller gathering rain, and just like scary little decorations everywhere. And I said, but you know what? I can do this. I can sleep here. It's safe. It's okay. It's just keep looking to what you want to do. And every day that I just kept reminding myself that I am a badass, that I am courageous, that I am fearless, that I can do hard things. And I realized all this is just adventure. And all this is just telling me that I can not only survive in a completely different mode of my life, learning a completely different way to to have a job at 52 years old. I cannot just survive, but I can thrive. And when you learn to trust yourself, and you learn that bravery is just like being afraid but taking action anyway, then you know that you can do anything that you can in your life. And I always think about what my life is demonstrating, and kind of elucidating for potential paths for my own kids, because my kids are 18 and 20 years old. And I was talking to my daughter about this live as it was going. And she said, Mom, you don't have to prove anything to us. I said, I'm really not trying to prove anything to y'all. I'm really just proving it to myself. And you're seeing it as a byproduct. But, I just want everyone to know that whatever it is that you want in your life, whatever it is, I don't care if it's a relationship full of love and being heard and being respected and trusted and cherished and adored, or whether it's a house that just makes you feel so protected and comfortable and secure, or whether it's a beautiful landscape that you want to live in, so that every day when you wake up, you see something beautiful out there in front of you that just inspires you and lets you know that there is a God out there and that you're just so tiny compared to this huge world. Like, whatever it is that you want, or if you want to make a huge impact in the world, where you really want to help make the world a better place and you don't know how to do it, you just have to trust that there's wisdom inside you, and you have to be able to pull up those versions of yourself when you get scared and you say, who is scared? Which version of you? And you remember that person. You say, what do they need? And there's a method that I teach, and it's tried and true. And you're able to do it scared, and you're able to tell your story in a way that is fun and from your heart, and you're living your life from that same place. And then you're able to make the impact that you want to in your life. And so if any of this resonates with you, chances are it'll resonate with other people that are in your circle of friends. So I made this shareable so you can share it to your page. And what I offer in this Soul Circle Academy is a 12-week transformational program. It's a journey where I and my other coaches hold your hand and walk with you hand in hand to this preferred state. So some of these things you're going to remember are scary and dark and also wonderful and amazing in the same token. And we're able to help you glean all the wisdom that you have so that it can be right there available to you at a moment's notice, so that you can live your life however it is that you want to live it. And I want to put a post later on in this week delineating every single thing about the program, so that you know exactly what you're getting and how long it takes and what it involves. People always want to know, how much does it cost financially and how much does it cost in my time budget, because I know everybody has a budget of their money and their time. But I'll tell you, it's the best 12-week investment in your life, and you will literally turn decades of pain and decades of just like living in this rut where you're just not getting places that you want to get, and everything you try, it might get you a good result for a day or a week or a month, but all those things that are kind of out there in the mainstream culture, they're all run from your conscious part of your brain, your frontal lobe, and that's only responsible for like 4% of our brain. If you really want to make amazing changes, you need to harness the other 96% of your brain, and people just don't know about it. Yes, and it leads you to freedom and healing and thriving, not just stagnant and surviving. Exactly. It's just an incredible thing to witness, and we have a whole tribe of men and women that are doing it, and they're able to leap, like, I feel like eons and eons, they're able to leap ahead of the game just by seeing the healing of other people in the tribe. And so it's just amazing, and nothing would make me happier, or it would be my honor to usher you into that preferred vision of your future. Get a hold and access that preferred memorized state, and maybe yours isn't bold and courageous, maybe yours is something else, but that's what mine is. And yes, everybody's saying you change your children's future too. Absolutely, because believe me, this stuff isn't being taught in the high schools and universities. I can tell you that firsthand. I was just thinking about that this morning. How many people are just indoctrinated into this, this government-run indoctrination of classes and things that they, that they deem to, check the boxes that need to be checked, and all it is get your grade, pass the test, pass the class, and you just don't. I don't know. I just really don't believe that pre-calculus and history and Spanish and all these little things that I hear my kids complaining about right now are going to get you to your preferred future. Those are what's required to get the degrees, but then you're left with your own self to live your life that you want to live, and you can live it however it is that you want to live it. So it would be my honor to help usher you into that version of yourself and into that preferred future. So just comment below, contact me. I'll put my email address up top. And I love you guys so much, and I hope y'all have a great rest of the day, a great rest of this week. It'll be a short work week for people that are working, and I will be here next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for my Tuesdays at 10 talk. Y'all have a great day. Take care and see you next week.